All right, hello and welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon. It is the 3rd of December 2021. I'm your host, Michael Deebs. Joining me, as always, Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle at DankTheLuz. Also joining us, a rare occasion these days, John, the producer from the Instagram handle at Discopathic. And our special guest returning for the 4th time, making him our I guess he was probably already our most returned guest at this point, but Teddy K, our Russian history expert. Starting with Danko, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. I am worried about John.
The performance reviews are gonna fucking get him.
I did want to check in with John about whether or not he has Havana syndrome after the CIA has tried to assassinate him so many times.
It's actually just been me outside of his window with cicadas.
You have a microwave full of cicadas that you're just gonna wobble around. Yeah.
I don't turn the microwave on. I'm not a monster.
No. But I'm doing good, dude. I'm doing very good.
I'm glad to hear that. That's
it's not true.
I mean, I know that's not true.
Yeah,
it's good that you lied about it.
Yeah, I was talking to someone in Australia, and
I'm sorry to hear
that. Right. Yeah. And I realized they're especially difficult to tell when they're being sarcastic because they always sound sarcastic.
Right. Yeah. The accent kind of just lends itself towards that, doesn't it?
And it must be terrible, though I would try it, having sex with an Australian.
not off the table, but it must be horrible.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is so great. I'm not going to do an Australian accent. I'm not going to do it. But oh, wow. Oh, awesome. Oh, that feels so good. And it would hurt my feelings, I feel like. But maybe I would like that.
Put another shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Racism against Australians, what, 5 minutes into the stream? Not even?
Yeah. Well, we had to market in an interesting way because it's usually Italians, and this episode is a special episode.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it special?
It's special. We'll get to that in a minute. We got to ask John how he's doing because
I guess
you've got to feel like you're under the gun now, John.
Crikey.
Yeah. Two no call, no shows in a row.
No.
Chat's good.
Management gave me my final notice, or I'll be fed alive to toddlers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm back and I'm positive. I showed up for work early today.
Good. The PMA, the positive mental attitude.
No one ever asks management why we have all the toddlers, which is good.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't want to ask management.
Yeah. Anyway, Ghislaine seems to be doing well.
Would management just have toddlers for no reason?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously to feed them.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
feed employees to them. Yeah.
Last but not least, of course, because Teddy's going to be doing all the heavy lifting this episode. Teddy, how are you doing, sir?
I have so many questions. For example, John, can't you put in a word with management or something? I feel like you might have an in there.
You should meet the HR lady. First off, you have to like disassociate and enter a fugue state and then take a bunch of drugs and then
it's an ayahuasca thing.
She appears as a shadow in your dreams and
oh, I've been there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's the sleep paralysis ghost. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. when I said the N word on air, HR made me torture an exact lookalike of myself to death.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
We split his psyche into two and made him fight it.
how positively Nietzschean that is. My word. Wonderful. No, I'm just desperately waiting for this Adderall to kick in. And I'm
Okay.
just
Are we all?
just absolutely fucking panicking. But other than that,
Hey, don't worry about it.
Doing
You're
all right.
doing great.
Yeah.
I,
And we're all
I
on
have
drugs
I have
here.
an icebreaker to bring this conversation.
is this going to be a Russian
focused.
joke that's like
Whoop.
racist?
No, it would never be that.
What kind of fish is this?
Look, if you think that I'm lowbrow enough to just do a racist Russian joke and not have
Yes.
something
Mm.
more elaborate and more
Unabashedly
racist,
so. No, it's all good.
I have a much more elaborate thing going on. So I figured, I wasn't sure where you were gonna go with the Russian history aspect of it, but I've been doing film reviews lately at the top of the show. What was it? 2 weeks ago we did Clifford the Big Red Dog. That was a good review, I thought.
Did they ever figure out what they do if he shits?
No, that's never brought up in the movie.
Well,
Though there is ass sniffing, which is weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, I just rewatched, or not rewatched. I've only seen it once. Everyone else has seen it 1,000 times. Chernobyl, which I imagine is more or less the same thing that follows from when Clifford the Big Red Radioactive Communist Dog shit.
Right.
Yes, probably, yeah.
Just lots of boron being dropped out of
Brought
helicopters.
up in the movie.
Well, for me, when I was watching Chernobyl, I thought it was the greatest fucking thing since sliced bread. But since then, I've actually
yeah.
gone and done some reading, and apparently it's a horrible piece of propaganda shtick made to look
What?
the Soviet Union look bad. Go figure. So yeah, it's
Well,
they've done the material culture pretty well.
I have a
but,
refreshing thing for us to
yeah.
talk about then. I wanted to review a piece of Russian film, obviously.
Mhm.
Given that we're talking about the subject of Russian history.
In the beautiful array of Russian films you could watch by Tarkovsky and all of the greats, you
Eisenstein.
chose.
I chose. I think it's roughly based on a Dostoevsky novel.
Isn't everything roughly
it's-
based on a Dostoevsky novel?
It's this movie called Black Widow.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
I made
Wow.
some brief notes about it. The plot line is very simple. There's some Russians. They live in America. They're spying on America,
Mhm.
which is kind of rude in my opinion, because I don't think America would do that back to Russia.
Not at all. That's
Absolutely
that's
not.
why would they? Yeah, no, absolutely not.
The main Russian guy, who is portrayed by a gentleman.
Just really quick. Yeah,
Go
just
ahead.
really quick. Is the actor that plays this man a Russian?
Well, his name is David Harbour.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Let me extend that a little bit further. Are any actors that play roles in this movie?
Well, there's also
Russian?
Florence Pugh and
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson.
Gotcha.
Are those Russian names? I'm not really familiar.
Couldn't
with.
say. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I have a follow-up question. Is
Okay.
any Russian spoken in this movie?
I think so. At some
Is any
point.
real Russian spoken?
Yeah, is any real Russian spoken, or is it like Boondock Saints Russian?
You guys aren't
which-
letting me finish my review here. I feel like I'm being put in the gulag right now.
All right.
So there's some pretty funny moments that happen in it.
Mhm.
First off, once the little girls of the family, so the Russian agent portrayed by David Harbour is
Who
found
actually
out.
I have no problem with the guy. He's actually a pretty good actor. Continue.
He is a good actor, but I'm not sure that he was well suited for this role, to be honest with you. Anyways, they get found out, and so they have to run away, and they run to Cuba, of course, because that's where the Russians infiltrated America from.
Mhm.
Immediately, the Russian troops are just like brutal to these poor little girls, both of whom turn out to be secret Russian ballet assassins later on in
Mhm.
life.
Yeah. All little girls in Russia.
Yeah, which honestly, like,
Confirmed. Yeah.
this is why America is losing. We don't have enough little ballet dancer assassin girls in our
Mhm.
country.
Yeah, we just have crump and tap dancing.
You
It's
know
not
what
very
we
helpful.
I
There's
feel
a
like-
very go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like there's like a whole kind of tangent we can follow here with needing to infiltrate Cuba. Is there a place we can possibly do that in as Americans?
No, I've never heard
Is
of it.
there some sort of inlet or
I've heard that
Bay.
doesn't
Like a
bay,
exist,
yeah.
but if
Yeah.
it does exist, it does have a McDonald's, so that's cool.
okay?
Oh, we're
Yeah.
not talking about
Oh.
Guantanamo. We're talking about a different entry point.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. As
okay.
far as military bases on Cuban territory goes, yeah. Okay, cool.
So when the little girls are told that they have to go back to Russia, the older
They're
girl with
insanely
the-
happy because, of course, they're going back home, right? So they're
No, they're
absolutely
actually
just
very
over themselves.
upset. They're very
Okay.
upset, and the older girl actually specifically says that she wants to go back to Ohio, which I don't think is a
rules.
realistic. That's
No.
where I was like, this might not be based in reality.
I don't know. Yeah, that
Please
was the
send me
one.
back to Ohio.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Immediately after the girls are taken by because the Russian family isn't like a real family. It's just two girls were attached to two agents. and they
Right.
were supposed
That's
to
actually
pretend as a
that's
family.
actually how Russian families work. So that's actually
Yeah,
pretty
no,
standard. Yeah.
that's, that I didn't want to bring that up, but it's useful because
Surgically attached.
they get taken away from their family and then they get sent to the little ballerina
Gulag,
Russian girl.
Of course, everything's called a gulag.
The
yeah.
ballerina gulag.
the ballerina assassin gulag.
Mhm.
And then we're treated to like no shit, like 3 minutes of a really horrible cover of Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit"
That rules.
over
What
a
year is this?
montage of
This was just made, right? Like
yeah,
a
this
year
was
no.
made
ago or
like
something?
less
No,
than
no,
a
no.
year ago.
What
hope I'm not
year
spoiling
is this
anything for
montage
anybody.
taking
Oh,
place?
I don't know, the 80s.
Oh no,
So
it's
before
it's
its
in
release,
the
right?
it's in the 90s.
Oh,
I
okay,
think
so it is
95.
time appropriate.
So it's post-Soviet then.
It's time appropriate, but it's this really cringy,
What a
like
confusing movie.
put everything in the key of A so it sounds haunting sort of cover.
Oh, so it's like it's got the flatness going on. Okay,
Yep.
a little bit of A flat going on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then there's some stuff where the little girls aren't little girls anymore.
Mhm.
One of them, Black Widow, portrayed by Scarlett Johansson.
That's her proper name. That's her.
Yeah, she's really named Scarlett Johansson.
That's her baptismal name, Black Widow. Okay.
Oh no, in the Black Widow character is named Natasha Necrova or something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to point out a couple things here. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure the Black Widow spider is not endemic to Russia. I think it's
No,
a New
it
World
does seem
animal.
like it would be out of place.
That's number one. And number
And-
two, of course, she has the last name of the royal dynasty in a Soviet state.
Yeah. that
Just
makes
wanted to
sense.
point. Just wanted to point those two things out. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Probably wouldn't make it there. But she's the one that becomes American anyways.
Gotcha.
The one that doesn't become American, which is Florence Pugh. I'm forgetting her name. But anyways, she's carrying out a hit in a third world country, and they just like there's
Just
gunfire.
a random third world country.
There's
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't think it's ever identified what the third world country is. but it's-
1997, the global south.
Yeah.
It's-
A country on the world's economic periphery.
It's dusty. It could either be somewhere,
Subtext just says-
somewhere in India or somewhere in the Middle East. I couldn't
Subtext just says Ohio.
tell. Yeah. So in this third world country, two women brutally fight in the middle of the street, and there's just people walking around like nothing's happening.
Okay.
Because that's I guess how things roll in the third world.
Oh yeah, no. Countries in the global south are not known for their extraordinarily repressive police forces
Social
or anything.
media.
Yeah. Social
Yeah.
media.
Social media.
Then there's at some point Natasha, Black Widow, whatever you want to call her, her and the Avengers have a falling out, so she has to
Oh,
go.
it's a Marvel movie. Okay, I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
it is a Marvel movie.
That's good.
Her and the
That's very
Avengers
exciting.
are no longer on good terms, so she has to go into hiding.
Is it because she's a Russian?
No, it's because she's a enemy of the state or something like that. I don't know.
She's
Jesus
a
Christ.
bitch.
Oh my
It's-
God, it really is because she's a Russian. Okay, continue.
Yeah, it might be. She does absolutely nothing to change her appearance.
Mhm.
Mind you, she's a super spy, and she's going into hiding, and she's also world famous at this point in the Avengers storyline.
But
She
it's her
just
job
walked-
to look like Scarlett Johansson.
What is her superpower again?
Her superpower is being an assassin ballerina.
Her superpower is being able to speak no Russian whatsoever.
Yeah, I actually think she does not speak any Russian at all in the film.
Gotcha.
Um,
I mean,
like
how
a
much worse
one-liner.
would that be?
Like a one-liner, like she kills someone, she's like, "Das vidanya."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Nothing.
It's
not
pretty good.
even that. Okay.
Sukabit.
It is a Marvel movie, not a fucking Dark Horse comic.
So she does nothing to change her appearance. At one point, she's driving a Land Rover kind of vehicle. It gets hit with a rocket blast that like topples it like, I don't know, 50 feet away. It
Okay.
it rolls over several times, but the vehicle.
But she pirouettes out of it.
Is the Land Rover-
kind of basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the Land Rover logo tastefully kind of like shot?
Yeah, it gets blown
it's
off
very-
the truck and it lands.
This is very
Well,
tasteful.
you know,
right?
they
Okay,
do
yeah.
they do the driving away scene where you can't help but just focus on the emblem as it's
As
kind
it
of
focus-
pulling out of
as it-
frame.
As it zooms in on her Sony laptop that she's typing
Yeah.
into. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's also I think it's BMW is the other one that's just like.
How far
all
are we
over
into
the
this
How
movie?
my God, let me tell you about
I'm
how
I'm
appropriate
almost done with
BMW
the
is.
notes because I stopped taking them at this point.
Let's talk about how important BMW is to the history of Russia. My
Yeah, sure.
There
God.
we go.
That's a good segue.
Yeah.
Before we get into that though,
Yeah.
David Harbour's character is tattooed all over the place, and he has a tattoo on his knuckle.
So he's a criminal.
He does end up in a gulag, even though he like helped the Russian state. They send him to the gulag, but on one set of knuckles he has Karl, and then on the other set of knuckles he has Marx tattooed.
Which
on
is
his
based.
In English though. It's
in
in
English.
English.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
Of course, it's in English.
Right. Okay, just checking.
So
Guys, I'm sorry. I need to do this just because I've never heard anyone do this, and it's been eating at me. Okay.
all right.
All right.
Good.
What do you call a? Sorry, I have to.
Is this
Fuck,
a
this
racist
sucks.
Russian?
This really
racist
sucks.
Russian joke?
What do you call a Russian's penis?
Oh
Uh,
boy.
Oh,
It's a
what?
gulag.
Oh man.
It's a log that makes goo.
Yeah.
It's a Russian's penis.
Can you
Teddy, you have
can
some-
you ban him? Can you mute him permanently?
For some reason, no one's ever made that
Yeah.
joke before.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'll talk to HR, but I can't promise anything. I can't even
You
fire
guys aren't-
people that don't show up. So
You guys aren't
Seriously.
rushing me out of here anytime soon.
Oh my God, I've never ever heard that one before. I've never heard that one before.
Teddy,
Oh my God.
you
I love
have some history for us.
Yeah.
Can we please mention the most important thing about this entire episode finally, now that we're 20 minutes into the fucking thing?
Oh yeah, what this is episode 6 and 9.
Oh my
Nice.
God. Have we made?
Nice.
Did I make it in?
You made it in.
Oh
I mean,
my God.
you made it in, and we also made it in.
Holy
That's
shit.
how the whole thing
Ideally,
works.
yeah, we're both making it at the same
Oh
time.
my
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the point.
Well, women have
Wow.
internal genitalia.
No, please. I need to hear this.
Well, if
Are,
it's
are
straight,
there
I guess
are
if
there
it's-
any
it's
women
gay,
on the
because-
podcast right now?
No,
'Cause-
sorry. I just
Mm.
I'm distracted.
yeah.
As far as anybody else knows, I'm just a silhouette, you know. So
You are-
like,
you're not even
yeah.
a silhouette. You're just a name.
yeah,
Yeah.
You are the darkness. You
I
are
could be
the
two dimensional as far as people know. So
well, yeah, you're the sleep paralysis demon that we've been talking about having on this
That's true.
podcast for forever.
yeah, show up and like do like an actually culturally appropriate Russian thing, but
Yeah.
people in America don't recognize it as such.
That actually happens to me a lot. Exactly this, where
Oh.
I am laying down at night and I kind of like wake up and I can't move and I can barely breathe, and
Mhm.
then a small man
Rumpelstiltskin.
just levitates over me and starts telling me facts about Peter the Great,
Okay.
and it goes on for an eternity.
Mhm.
And you would think I would like it, but dream logic is confusing and
That's
it's
true.
terrifying.
It's the inverse. Yeah, like for
Yeah.
example, I had a dream recently where I only had 1 week until Christmas break. Woke up ready to go, man. But yeah,
Damn.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that,
jeez,
dude.
that's I know it was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
Anyway.
a dream when I was a kid that I had a collection of Pokemon cards.
But you woke up and you didn't have any.
I didn't have any Pokemon cards. I had like
Vod.
2 because I stole them from
Yeah.
other kids.
Yeah, I used to steal people's Game Boy to play Pokemon on. I admit
But did
it.
you keep it?
No, I brought it back.
No.
I ran out of battery.
That's
Anyway.
borrowing. You ran out of battery. Could
Coward.
you replace these batteries? I
Yeah.
need to keep playing on your
Yeah.
Pokemon game.
All right, we've
100%
gotten
true.
the important
rules.
thing about the podcast out of the way.
Yeah, 69.
Yeah. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I
Rose.
really made it in. That's
You
Yeah,
made it
dude,
in.
I'm genuinely
we
this-
saved this one for you.
oh,
We did.
Actually,
Thank
I
you.
wanted you on last week, but you couldn't make it, so
I'm
this is what
sorry.
happened.
All right. Really quick though. Just one really quick thing about portrayals of Russians in media. We don't ever use flasks. Ever. Any media that portrays Russians drinking out of flasks is false.
It's just
It's
bottles.
just-
it's
it's-
just straight out of the bottle.
No, well, tea is drunk out of glasses.
You never. No one's drinking tea out of a flask, though.
No, the flasks
you-
are not a thing. Flasks are an American thing.
But what do you drink?
Out of shot glasses.
But you don't
Yeah.
have like a shot glass in your pocket.
No.
You
just don't.
So booze on the run.
That's not a thing. You sit down with your family or with your
you
friends.
get drunk
First-
in
and
front,
first-
in front of your
and
wife
first-
and kids.
That's right.
You-
First,
No, you
first
don't
you
get-
eat.
You
And
don't
then you
get drunk in front of your wife and kids. You get drunk with your wife and
Okay.
kids.
Actually, up until very recently, it was considered extraordinarily passe for women to drink. Again, Russia's, it's a
Yeah.
little bit more. It's a European country. That's a little bit more behind the times, and like growing up, like my mom would never drink, so she's got a lot of catching up to do.
Good for
Yeah,
her.
no, it's you sit down, you have some salad, then you drink, you have some soup, and then you drink, and then you have your main course, and then you drink some more, and then you have tea, but then you're also drinking, and then you sing a little bit, then you dance a little bit, then you start crying, then you kind of loop back, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
So it's just like America, except you guys have salad.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a lot more tears,
Yeah.
at least for me.
I've been thinking that it would be really cool if my mom started drinking too.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
she'd be a lot cooler if she was an alcoholic.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
It'd be a lot cooler if you drink a lot.
Be
more.
a lot cooler if you did. Yeah.
I mean, I think that I don't know that we would call ourselves progressives per se. I guess in American parlance, we don't have a whole lot of other options. But as progressive people, we should insist on all women becoming alcoholics.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing based on this.
As a direct
Yeah.
counterpoint,
It's
Yeah.
called
as a direct
paired.
counterpoint to the prohibition, just kind of closing the loop. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's 2020. It's been 101 years that women have had the franchise.
Uh,
The first thing they did with it
to
was
be-
enact
be able to-
prohibition.
yeah.
It's I think it's time to close the loop on that. And
it's
and
time to
Yeah.
stop gatekeeping the girls at the entrance to the tree fort.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Vauban fortification is for everyone.
Girl
it's-
boss your way to a bottle of pop-off.
No. My God. Oh, another fucking thing. Yeah, no, this is now officially I gripe about fucking stereotypes hour. Vodka is not made out of potatoes, okay?
Some of it is, not
Some
most
of it is.
not most
Some of it
yeah.
is,
Yeah, yeah,
but that vodka is made in Poland. Russian
Isn't,
vodka is made out of wheat.
I was
Sure,
gonna say,
yeah.
okay, I thought it was me, yeah.
Now there's a huge fucking lawsuit about it in the 80s where Poland and Russia tried to prove to each other who came up with vodka first, because both claim it as being the inventors, and it was scientifically proven, or at least as close as it can be through documents and shit, because Russia went hard, that technically vodka appears 10 years earlier in Russia than it did in Poland. And again, these are such fluid fucking things, because things like borders and lands, things that I actually plan on getting into today. I plan on talking about Poland quite a bit today because it figures into the story. Borders as such were not like a hard thing until after the Peace of Westphalia, after the 30 Years' War. And even then, they were regularly fucking violated. So, unless there was a river in place, it was always up in the air where a border was, specifically within lands that the peasants of which spoke very similar languages. prayed to the same god, followed very, very similar traditions. And this kind of ties into modern events, actually very, very current events.
You talk about like linguistic borders and stuff like that.
Sure, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, the entire Eastern Europe. I mean, that we're going to hit that heavily when it's time for World War I, when it's time for World War II. Those are the lands the most heavily affected. But yeah, in 5 years when we get to World War I, we'll hit that hard. But at the same time, it's important to establish that sort of shit. Let's say the territories of the current nation states of Belarus, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania have historically been very, very fluid. A variety of different people have lived in them, a variety of different ethnicities, religions. It's been this very big mixing thing. And nowadays, again, I have to now it's scientifically proven to be more than one listener. Congratulations, guys.
They are all one listener.
Sure, yeah. Did you just dox yourself, John?
I think I might have.
Did you just fucking dox yourself, bud?
Yeah.
I'm not watching the stream.
Not,
What
not
happened?
enough, probably.
No. There's someone is gonna fucking walk around with a goddamn metal
there
detector
you
and
go.
shit. So that entire kind of
As seen here on
flatlands,
planet Earth.
as seen here on Google Maps, all these lands have been fluid throughout earlier in the Middle Ages, when mostly nomads lived there, and then you see the Middle Ages. You see the Kingdom of Poland, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, and then the Teutonic Knights. And then they're kind of semi-successors, but that's not technically correct. They were a separate order, the Livonian order. And then you had the German cities of the Baltic, which were, if we know anything about the the Baltic was actually a huge trade lane. That's where most of the Hanseatic League was based on. If you guys remember anything at all from medieval history class or any kind of world history class, the Hanseatic League was this huge medieval trade fucking thing. The Russian city of Novgorod was part of it, but the German cities of Bremen and Hamburg and Frankfurt, you might recognize some of those. Maybe not Frankfurt, but Hamburg and Bremen for sure. Lübeck and a bunch of these cities in Pomerania, which is northern Germany nowadays and part of northern Poland. So that kind of the little hump there of Poland touching the Baltic Sea. That's part of Pomerania. A lot of wars were fought over this kind of area because it's economics.
It wasn't to get the cute little dogs.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if we really want to dig deep, I mean, the deep state. If you rearrange the letters, everything of Pomerania, it says woof woof. So
no, it's just a Pomeranian.
Yeah, no. So Pomerania changed hands many, many times, and this is going to figure into our story because at this point, parts of Pomerania are Swedish. Sweden conquered these lands as part of the 30 Years' War, and I think maybe a little bit even before. The whole reason Sweden was involved in the 30 Years' War was because its ally France asked it to be involved. Again, you see how I'm kind of grasping on a variety of things and don't really know where to hang my hook in because everything's fucking connected. I think this is what episode 4 or 5 of me yelling into the ether. And you see that fucking landmass that's right there that John has so kindly elicited for us. You see how all those fucking lands are contiguous and like are next to one another. This is a fun fact that's going to help us later. Is the fact that all these fucking land that borders are fake, and to this day it doesn't fucking matter, and it shouldn't matter. But people have been moving and living around these lands for a while, and a lot of those borders are pretty close together. Us living in the States, oftentimes we kind of forget that sort of thing. We live in a relatively large country. Europe is not big. It is not a big place, but there are a vast variety of ethnicities, languages, very, very polarizing social groups that live there. And let me do this. Let me give you guys a quick fucking crash course in Poland. And then, of course, obviously, if there's people that are really paying attention, they're going to be like, well, this time it's not Poland, it's the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And that's correct. Because again, this kind of this fucking nerds, shut up. But Poland as such. I'm going to use the shorthand Poland. I apologize for anybody who's Belarusian or Lithuanian listening.
We don't have any of those.
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
We don't allow them.
Yeah. But again, these lands that are in modern news, they're in current events. There's military buildup in Belarus facing Poland, Russia, and Ukraine. This shit echoes down through the centuries to today. But it's the 17th century. We're walking back before Peter again. It's important. Even before then, the 16th century, the 15th century, Poland, which is a kingdom, gets into a personal union with Lithuania, which is actually a lot bigger than it is today. Lithuania at the time was one of the last pagan places left in Europe, which is why after the failure of the first set of crusades into the Holy Land, Palestine, the Christian knights really wanted some ass to kick still. Like they were like, where can I get this shit? Where can I get the loot? Where can I get all this bullshit and kind of get away with it? Because that's what feudalism requires. Feudalism requires ever expanding land. Feudalism it requires constantly, we talked about this. Slave owning societies require captured populations. Feudalism requires increasing lands. Capitalism requires entry into new markets. It's the beast must grow, otherwise it fucking starts eating itself. So Teutonic Knights, Livonian Knights base themselves on that Baltic coast of Estonia, Latvia, parts of Lithuania that are on the coast. There are German populations there at this point. In the Middle Ages, there are German populations there that are there for hundreds of years. There are Russian populations that live very, very close to them and have for a while. We can kind of take a step back and even analyze the language of what are Russians, what are, any of this. For example, during the 16th, 17th century, the monarchy that's based out of Moscow in Western sources, specifically in Poland, is called Muscovy, or, the kingdom or the tsardom of Muscovy or whatever. And that is a political choice that was made. Instead of calling it the kingdom of the Rus, or because the Russians called themselves the Rus, Rusine, from where the word Russians or Ruski came from. That's a Greek word. But the Polish called them Muscovites because the Grand Duchy of Lithuania had been systematically conquering territories in modern day Belarus, which had at the time, again, I'm trying to be very gentle. At the time, they frankly had ethnic populations that were very, very similar between themselves as Russians and current day Belarusians and current day Ukrainians. Again, this is centuries ago. And at the time, these ethnicities were much, much closer together. Essentially, they were part of this whole Rus situation. Another completely invented term, and I could get stoned for this, is Ruthenian. You guys may have heard that term before. Again, that's a term that was invented in the West to describe East Slavic populations, or Russians, Belarusians, or Ukrainians that were under the control of Western powers like Polish. In Polish, let's remember, Polish are Slavs too. They're West Slavs. You have the East Slavs, the West Slavs, and the South Slavs, or Yugo-Slavs. Again, you have the politicization of language. Again, that's why I'm actually trying to be very, very careful, because again, you go out there on the internet and you say, oh, Ukrainians are all Russians, and you're going to get fucking death threats, because there's literally almost a war being fought right now about this sort of shit, whether or not Ukraine deserves to be part of Russia, or whether, Ukraine is a sovereign nation state. There were complex relations during the Soviet Union. These are all very, very charged words. These are very charged topics to this day. And they're only getting even more charged. So you want to talk about powder keg? There's your other fucking powder keg here in Eastern Europe. People feel very, very strongly about it. There's, obviously people try to use history or linguistics or sociology or these kind of studies as essentially political pawns, essentially just to say, oh, well, actually, these are all hereditary lands of Russia. That's correct, but it has nothing to do with current ethnicities and current nation states. So it's kind of one of those irrelevant things. So you have a lot of people in Russia that are saying, well, the Ukrainians are essentially Russians. That's because in the end, Kiev, we talked about Kiev, that was the first Russian city. But this is before Russians were called Russians. These were just East Slavs conglomerating together. That was 1,000 years ago. You can't use that kind of fucking language to motivate current day political conquest, that sort of shit. I just wanted to, I wanted to say that right now.
Speaking of conquest, Teddy, I want to know if you can tell me how this right here, this the penis of Lithuania and the pussy of Belarus.
Go ahead and zoom in there. Is there a river there by any chance?
This little cutout of border.
Can you zoom in? Can you zoom in and see if there's a river there? Usually, a lot of times borders are formed by
rivers or some kind of like impassable terrain.
Some sort of It looks like I can't. Again, this is on the stream. It's so freaking.
No, it's a road.
Yeah. So again, a lot of the stuff was frankly arbitrarily determined. During the Soviet Union, there were some territorial changes. For example, in the hotly contested Donetsk region, the Donbass region, which of course you may remember from 2014, there being a fucking war fought over to this day. There are arguments that, hey, well, in the Soviet Union in 1925, the Soviet Union gave this territory over to the Ukrainian SSR, which is the Soviet Socialist Republic, one of the contingent states of the Soviet Union, and therefore it should be rightfully Ukrainian. And then there's people like, oh, no, it was Russia to give away, so it's Russia's to take back, so it should be Russian. Whereas in reality, the Soviet Union was operating under the principle of this is my own internal territory. I'm just going to organize it how it's administratively easy. Again, it has no bearing on current shit. And that makes things very difficult because all the sides have a point and all the sides are also fucking wrong. So, you have national self-determination on one side, you have historic ethnicities on another. It's, again, I hope that, I'm staring into my computer and the chat is just like little fucking worms crawling. I can't tell if people are typing anything or if people are upset. But
looking at the chat, it's just full of worms. I don't know where I am.
Oh my God.
On your end,
it's kicking in. It's kicking in, baby.
Teddy, on your end, you can change the view so that I'm like the main view and you should be able to read.
No idea how to fucking do that. I can only
it's in the top right of the screen.
Don't make him technology.
Yeah, no, there's no fucking way. I still can't see it, but that's all good.
I'll let you know if anybody's also calling you bad names. Nobody has.
They are.
That's good. That's good.
But we're also talking about a part of the world that's full of countries that name themselves things like Belarus.
Careful,
right? No, but genuinely, this is a point I'm making. Where Belarus, if I'm not wrong, simply means this is where the White Russians are.
White Russian, yeah,
right.
White Russia.
So it's like a bunch of countries that are arbitrarily naming themselves slightly differently. I mean, Yugoslavia versus right, like sure. All. And it's all inherently part of this conflict of saying we're not those other guys, we are us, yes. And so it's and
to a lot of these
saying that
to a lot of these former Soviet republics, this is an incredibly important part of their modern day state identity. They've they've broken with Russia. It is incredibly important for them to assert their own identity, and I support that. I mean, it's so again, if you meet someone from Ukraine and you call them a Russian, they might be polite to you, but they're fucking furious inside, or they might welcome it. They might be an ethnic Russian living in Ukraine. It's that kind of fucking thing. So again, in the States, everybody thinks it's all part of Russia anyway, and that's in a way. Even me, who is a Russian, and I'm like, yes, of course, it should all be, but like, obviously I don't, but I even find myself like saying like, no, that's, that's this, and this is this, and this is a very complex fucking thing. And I'll keep kind of picking at it a little bit more.
It should be noted that this phenomenon you're talking about is not in any ways unique to this region. I mean,
absolutely
the same thing happens in all sorts of countries in the Middle East.
Yes.
I mean, we currently have the China-Taiwan situation.
Yep.
Even in the US, you have like if you call somebody from Louisiana like an Alabamian
Yankee
or something. Yeah, I mean, or even closer, like if you call them like an Alabamian or something, like they'll fucking get irate with you.
A Lincolnite. All right, yeah.
Checkmate, Lincolnite.
I love that shit, dude.
It's very good.
Even down to like the slurs in the South that people will accept. Like if you call somebody from the wrong region a coon ass, they'll be like, "I'm not a coon ass. I'm a hillbilly."
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah, that's why I prefer not to use that term at all, obviously. But
no. A coon ass is a
stop saying it.
Yeah.
it's a term for swamp folk. It's not a term for black people.
And I assume there's people that take pride in that kind of identity. Like they're used.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is you call the wrong person that, they'll get offended at you and they'll say, "No, I'm a hillbilly, you asshole."
Right.
And the rest will say, "No, that's my word."
Yeah. Right. Before we get too lost in the weeds here.
Yeah.
Which there are a lot of weeds to be had here. I wanted to make a note that A, it's a very complicated situation. B, there very well in the near future be a war fought here, and I don't want to see it happen. Because modern day Russia, or rather the government of modern day Russia, thinks it's the Soviet Union still, and it has the power capacity of the Soviet Union, and it simply does not. There are many, many manifold reasons for this. We, again, in about 6 or 7 years, when Russia has finally been defeated and brought to kneel, we will discuss this as we reach the modern era of Russia, and Russia will just be this kind of thing where, there used to be a country named Russia. Now it's just a glowing fucking nuclear wasteland. But again, and I will be very, very sad because there are beautiful, beautiful places in Russia, and there's, really good people in Russia, just like there are beautiful people in Ukraine and Belarus. And don't ever say the Ukraine. Don't ever say the Ukraine.
Is that a dog whistle?
That's not a thing. That's a dog whistle that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. The only excuse is if you're talking about the geographical region. I think that's the only one, but. I guess it's the United States. You're allowed to say that, but don't say the Ukraine.
Is John looking up porn again? I can't read it.
I can't see it. Yeah, it's too small. I don't know. I guess we'll find. It's a dealer's choice. We'll find out.
He's looking up beautiful places in Russia.
Oh, that could have been dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm just fact checking Teddy to see if there are beautiful places in Russia.
Is he correct? Are there pretty places in Russia?
Can you really quick type in the word Peterhof for me? Peterhof.
These are just normal places with the saturation turned up.
Oh, F. Well, if we're talking about that, then Russia should be completely covered with snow, gray skies, and of course, naturally, there should be dudes with machine guns.
Yeah.
Peterhof, not prison. Oh yeah, Peterhof Palace, exactly. That's one of my favorite places ever. Cool. Those fountains are they're gilded with real gold. That was Peter's summer residence. It's not fully gold, but it's gilded. There were horrific battles fought here during World War II, and then they restored most of it. The evil Soviet Union restored it, and used it as a free museum for anybody.
Man, how fun would it be to kill and be killed in that building?
I don't think they ever reached. I think they just bombarded it. They bombarded it with artillery. When we talk about the siege of Leningrad, I'll get uncomfortably fucking personal with it.
Were you there?
Yes, I was there.
It's like that Peep Show thing. Those children have no idea what it was like in Stalingrad.
Yeah. People know about Leningrad. Again, I don't know, maybe if the listeners
stop doing that.
Want us to, the listeners wish us to hop around, or if they have a request for me to address a specific time or whatever, instead of just going chronologically like I have been, we could perhaps hop over to World War II at some point. But
I'm going to go ahead and veto that. We don't listen to the listener.
We don't take suggestions. Yeah. That's true. Listener, I'm so sorry, pal. I don't even know how to gender you. God bless, though. But
it a listener named it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Haven't I read that in a book somewhere? Yeah.
Please go on.
But, again, walking it back, Peterhof was built with slave labor. So
what? That building's built by slaves?
Yes, that's what Russian serfs were. They were functionally slaves.
Crazy.
Yeah,
some pretty talented slaves.
Matter of fact, I've actually been there.
/ fucking goddamn it, Plantation Versailles.
Essentially, yeah. I've been there. And that amazing. I've been to the pump room for that fountain, and they
Wish you'd
say
take me to the pump room for that fountain.
there was small children. There were small
Oh
children
no! Okay,
that had to crawl through those pipes. And
oh, because their
fix
hands
them.
are real small.
Yeah, there were small children of serfs that had to crawl around and fix them.
That
So-
sucks.
So I guess what I was trying to tell you know, when we had that big map open and we were
Mhm.
talking about ethnicities and nationhood, I would like to kind of hammer home the point that all of that shit is irrelevant. And if you just give me a second, it's because, oh God, here we go.
I old plumber. Yeah.
That all of these people currently.
No,
Oh,
no, John.
Oh, are these
This
the
this
Russian
looks
children you were
fun.
talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they look like they're having a great time.
Those look well fed. So no.
Yeah.
But
one of them is dressed
Actually,
up as
yeah.
Mario.
Well, there's the muddy one.
I guess the point I was trying to make is all these ethnic hatreds and religious hatreds and all that shit are beside the point of the fact that they've been oppressed by a very similar class throughout time.
I generally
that
feel that way about
actually-
racism.
That actually saw itself across borders of states or whatever as its equal. I think I may have talked about the whole fact that when crusading knights were on crusades, they saw Saracen and Turkish knights as their equals. Does he have a horse? He's got a horse. Does he have armor? He's got armor. Is he in charge? He's in charge. These are my people. I can deal with them. You know, so like nobility from other countries, nobility from other kingdoms and shit was actually treated humanely, far more human than you would treat your own fucking peasant or serf.
Yeah,
That's always been the case.
Game recognizes
Yeah.
game. It's
There's-
like when you're at the barbecue and like a bunch of dads like kind of converge together.
We in
Those
Marxism
New
call this
Balances looking
class.
fresh, Tony.
He's wearing New Balances.
We call this
baseball cap.
class solidarity in Marxism, by the way.
Right.
No, I was gonna say it does
Yeah.
seem like you're going on a class reductionist arc here, which I do approve of. So please continue.
Yeah, everything's class.
And it's notable in history that anytime like a war is fought, you know,
It's
the
economic.
nobles are always attempted to be captured rather than killed, and
Mhm.
usually the nobles are treated quite like they'll be in prison, but they'll be like in prison in like a gilded cage sort of.
It's
scenario.
considered outside the norm when a bunch of knights are killed. That's why battles like Crécy, Poitiers, and Azincourt stand out, because there's a bunch of French nobility killed there. That sort of thing. Yeah, no, you expect to not die unless, you know, freak accident, chance,
Yeah,
whatever. You get stuck
dying's
by
for
some
the
fucking,
peasants.
yeah, you get stuck by some peasant or whatever accidentally. Shit happens. You know, you die of diarrhea. Everybody dies of fucking diarrhea. Diarrhea is
And
not.
if you're the peasant that kills the noble of an opposing army, you get your ass beat.
Yeah, you cost us a fucking ransom, you asshole.
And by the way, one of the listener did mention Teddy.
Mm.
And
yeah.
it's I imagine the inside of Teddy's brain looks like the Peterhof Palace.
Oh God,
Is that nice?
just serfs, just
full
fucking
of,
just
full of
Yeah.
slave children.
yeah, just
Full
slave
of
children.
slave children,
Just
gilded
rape.
motifs.
Oh my God, yeah, just
Some
Jesus. Well, they can't
classical
be.
music playing.
You
in the
can't see them in
background.
these rooms, of course. They're in the walls.
Being pummeled by all artillery,
Yeah.
kids falling out of the
Jesus Christ.
drywall.
Would you say that the serf children are structural to the
Yeah.
to the Peter
You
House
can't
Palace?
remove that. That's a structural child.
That's a load-bearing child. Please do not remove that.
We'll be dealing with all sorts of shit as we deal with the 18th and 19th century. Oftentimes you'll have, let's say, people that lean a little bit to the right will say, look at what we've lost. And they'll
Yeah.
point to pictures of these beautiful fucking places. Look at this is what we have lost through the Soviet Union, through, you know, communism or whatever. Look at what we've, all of this shit was made possible through a tiny fractional minority oppressing a gigantic population and using it for resources, labor, taxation, essentially as they saw fit. Anyway,
That's
we were talking about Poland, weren't we? Let's walk it all the way back. Let's walk
Back
it all
to
the way
the
back.
map, John.
Marching back on Poland.
Back in the late, either late 14th or early 15th century, there is a personal union between the Kingdom of Poland and the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, which I have mentioned at this point has conquered lands in present-day Belarus, present-day Russia, and I think maybe even present-day Ukraine. That's correct, yeah. So the Grand Duchy of Lithuania is actually really large.
Oh.
And it calls itself the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Rus or whatever, or Ruthenia or whatever, because it has these claims staked that it keeps conquering, it keeps closing in. Matter of fact, the eastern borders of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, if you want to zoom in close to Moscow, if you can find the city of Smolensk for me, that's where they ended.
Oh man, they didn't put any of these in
Oh,
English.
here it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So Smolensk was actually Lithuanian territory.
Which Smolensk, by the way, means small ants.
Small.
So where was Belarus in this time? Just like
Belarus was considered to be Lithuania.
Oh, okay.
So again, so the Lithuania itself is actually very close to, like, the ethnic borders of Lithuania are pretty close to what they are today. So you had ethnic Lithuanians, which formed both peasants and nobility, and then you had essentially Belarusians, or they could be called Ruthenians, they could be called just Russians, or Rus or whatever. The term Russian doesn't arise until the reign of Ivan III, who had a Greek wife, and the Greeks called the land here Russia, hence Russia, hence Russia, hence all that, that's where that comes from. So again, not stepping on anybody's toes, this is where it was. So they're united by this act of union, the Kingdom of Poland, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. I think it was Jagiello, the Grand Duke, and Jadwiga, the Queen of Poland. They get married, personal union, but it's not one country. It's an example of what happens, the two endpoints of feudalism. One endpoint of feudalism is Louis XIV France, an absolute state. L'état c'est moi. I am the state. Everything is centralized. You centralize everything so thoroughly. You curtail the power of the nobility so thoroughly that everything goes through you. That is one way into which feudalism can go, is into the centralized kind of enlightenment, absolutist kind of state. Another way it could develop is into what the Commonwealth became. It became more and more and more subsectionalized, sub-sectored, and the nobles started exerting more and more power. So much so that you guys may or may not have remembered reading about the Polish parliament, because it was in fact a commonwealth. It was, the Latin name is res publica, the common thing. The direct translation into the Polish language is Rzeczpospolita, which is Commonwealth or Republic of Poland. So Rzeczpospolita Polska. But again, it's not just Poland. Was it a republic? You can quickly ask. Yes, it absolutely was. And the counter to that could be like, well, of course, it couldn't possibly have been democratic. It wasn't. Only the nobles had the power to vote. So in the nobles in that case were considered the people, and anyone that couldn't vote, they weren't even considered people. So we may have talked about this, but no, actually, I know we talked about this before. Poland and Lithuania and all these places had a lot of nobility. They had a lot of really small houses, a lot of impoverished families at this point, but they all treasured this ability to A, vote, and B, veto just about anything that fucking happens. And these assemblies of the Commonwealth could nowadays be compared to essentially medieval fairs or Renaissance fairs or whatever. They were essentially that kind of party atmosphere. Everybody would come in, everybody would socialize, everybody would drink, people would joust, some fighting would break out, whoring around, all that good shit. And then eventually they would come to decide something, this is how they elected their king. And all it took is one dissenting voice to nullify anything that had just been fucking talked about. Can you imagine how much of a fucking uncomfortable, inconvenient fucking system, if you think the filibuster is bad, one person out of an assembly of thousands could stand up and say, "Nie pozwolę, I don't permit it." It doesn't, you could be from the smallest house possible. That's it. Not only was the fucking motion canceled, but I think at one point they actually had to shut down for the day.
Damn.
Then they come back the next day. Yeah, it was like that. So the nobility, of course, treasured this, but was it really like that? Not so much. What really happened was you had the most rich of the nobles, the magnates, they were called. They formed power blocks. And then they had retainer nobles, which essentially voted as they did. And then, of course, if anybody was trolling, That if someone was just fucking around just to fuck around, they could relatively easily just be fucking killed.
Yeah, I was gonna say
no, they very easily could just be fucking like if
it's one
Joe
of those
Bob
on paper, but functionally,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that sort of things.
Yeah. You have this. Yeah, they called it Golden Liberty, and the Liberum Veto, the free veto, the freedom to say no. Also, written into, I don't remember if they had a constitution, written within the noble privileges were the right established by law, A, to conduct personal wars. So again, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth could be at peace, but some nobles could actively be fighting a civil war, and that's normal. That's totally chill. It happened all the time. Again, on a minor level throughout other feudal states, this already kind of happened anyway, but here it was codified. Also, if nobles had perceived that some sort of wrong had been done them from a legal perspective and they couldn't resolve it through the courts, A, they could declare personal war, or B, they had the legal right to rebel against the elected king. Full stop. So again, the amount of privileges here that you have is extensive, and you find the king, essentially whoever they were at the time, being very, very hard pressed to affect really anything. This resulted in Poland. Again, this is the Commonwealth. It's not just Poland. Poland is actually a really small part of it. It was mostly Lithuanian territory, but it comprised Ukraine and Belarus and all that shit. Found itself often at war, often at civil war, lots of rebellions. Plus, you have all these ethnicities. Plus, you have all these fucking. You exist at this intersection of religions as well. Poland, I'm talking about Poland proper now, is Catholic. Very, very, very Catholic, even to this day, actually. They are very staunchly Catholic. They've always seen themselves as this kind of bulwark against the East, where you have Orthodoxy. Sprinkled throughout, you have both German populations and to the north, actual German fucking states, like Courland. We talked about Courland. That was an ethnically German state who were Protestant or Lutheran at the time. Again, Protestants nowadays, there's so many fucking subdivisions. Back then, there were essentially Lutherans and Calvinists. These Germans were Protestants. Again, religious foes, economic friends, economic foes, religious friends. It's like this. Most of the peasantry of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania was Belarusian and Ukrainian. They were Orthodox. So they were oppressed for that reason too. And also throughout this place, really important thing to remember later is there are huge Jewish populations. And again, while it is again on the record that the Commonwealth was not as oppressive to Jewish people as a lot of other states were at the time, that's not really saying much because they were still horribly oppressive to the Jewish populations. Because law,
expulsion of the Jews was happening like way before any of the world wars started.
Yeah, and mostly it was it was an economic choice. Usually.
Tradition.
Oh, the king happens to owe shit tons of money to the Jewish population. Why don't we just nullify that fucking loan and kick them all out? So yeah, that's a variety of fucking places did that shit. So you have this kind of melting pot of cultures. A bunch of them are oppressed. A bunch of them hate each other. Really, it's because that they're ruled by feudal overlords. But there's a lot of invented ways for them to hate each other. The state becomes weaker and weaker throughout this. In the early 17th century, they're a very, very powerful state. Towards the end of the 17th century, under the rule of Augustus the Strong, the dude that had 300 fucking kids and who buried his heart in Dresden. He wasn't a very good king. Again, he was a chill dude.
Yeah, but he was a dope dad.
He was a chill dude. He was a dope dad. He could break a horseshoe in half with one hand. This is a documented fucking thing.
It's a good dad trick.
Yeah. But he was really bad at dealing with the nobility. So essentially, Poland is internally fucking dividing itself. So you're going to see countries in the 18th century start to essentially divide it up. You're going to see Catherine going to be at the forefront of that sort of stuff, although she didn't start off wanting to do that. Now, bringing it back to St. Petersburg.
Real quick, I will be right back. Yeah. Continue on without me.
Cool. He's had enough. I know.
Son of a bitch.
No.
He always does this.
No.
Yeah, be a fucking mensch and yawn like Dorian does.
I have PTSD. It's a symptom. I get anxious and I yawn.
Is that right?
It's actually real.
Am I scaring you?
Yeah.
Am I bringing back fucking flashbacks of
Every time I think
now?
about Russia, I just
Poland had a very good army at the time in the 17th century, but then because of feudal restrictions, we talked about how in the 18th century people are able to raise armies to the tune of 50,000 now. The main feudal levy in the Commonwealth was about 18,000. It was actually less at the beginning of the 18th century than the Polish-Lithuanian army was at the beginning of the 17th century. There's
When you say that you could that say in a country of 50,000, actually a single feudal lord, feudal master could.
John, you broke up that entire time. I apologize.
Yeah,
what did
you
you
were
say?
like a robot piano.
Oh,
which I love, but
It was
I'd like to hear
it.
it.
It was cool.
Yeah. But can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, when you said that you're now seeing armies of 50,000, are you talking about a single army or like individual, like little feudal lords could potentially?
This is now we're now I kind of get a background in the 17th century a little bit before that. We're now back in the 18th century where armies are professional, well paid. Again, in the 17th century during the 30 Years' War, part of the reason there's huge devastation is because people regularly in every country just straight up sometimes didn't pay their men. It was just a thing. It was like the soldiers when they were paid, they were actually paid very well, but on occasion they just weren't at all. So naturally you have this mercenary mindset where people go around and just rob and murder everybody. So that's why the 30 Years' War essentially depopulated a huge swath of Germany and was considered the worst war ever until maybe even World War One. Although the Napoleonic War certainly did a fucking number on Germany too, which again, Germany is not a whole state at this point. It is thousands of tiny little dukedoms and duchies and bishoprics and counties led by counts and all that shit. But let's bring it back to St. Petersburg. When we last left off, I think Peter III had just entered on the throne. You're going to want to go left. St. Petersburg's right on the sea. Yeah, Baltic Sea. Yeah, there it is. This is that northern capital that Peter the Great built. We can't escape him. We can never escape him. He's always with us.
He's a great guy.
He's sitting right next to me. Oh God, why does he have a sword? Yeah. So Peter III, whose real name is, of course, Karl Peter Ulrich von Schleswig-Holstein-Gottorp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
Top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thus, yeah. So Karl is a German boy. No, he's not a boy. He's 17.
That's a
and
man.
his
That's a
family
middle-aged
member,
man at this point in history.
so his aunt, Elizabeth Petrovna, is still in charge, and she wants to find him a wife because he seems to have no interest in getting married or not. He's 17, or he might be either 16 or 17 at this time, and this kid loves fires. He loves the act of when a fire is burning and people come out and try to put it out, and he'll hear someone will report to the palace hey, Pete, there's a fucking fire, and he straight up will load up his fucking carriage and he'll go there and he'll watch. That's what he likes to do. This again is a fun fucking fact that will help us later.
Is he jacking off while he watches?
Yeah.
I can't confirm nor deny. So again, it's one of those things. So Elizaveta Petrovna, we talked about her last time. She wants to find him a wife that, according to her, these are her words, are from an ancient house, but a poor one. There's a reason for this. So she wouldn't get too fucking full of herself. So she would be chill with her very, very fucking mediocre son. Or sorry, it's not her son. It's her nephew, I think. Elizabeth Petrovna never marries. And she, looks far and looks wide. And eventually she remembers in her own childhood. This is kind of a lot of the books I read, a really high authority in this is actually a modern day monarchist. So if I start singing these fuckers' praises at one point, somebody just slap me. But again, a very, very highly respected fucking writer on this is politically a monarchist. So sometimes he gets a little carried away. Elizabeth thinks back to her past. Back when she was actually betrothed or wanted to be betrothed, and back when people were betrothed back then, and the nobility and whatever, they were sent portraits of one another just to be like, hey, this is what your fucking partner for life is going to be. You don't get a choice. But that's what they look like, and they're fucking ass ugly. But in this case, the young Elizabeth, way back in her day before she ever took the throne, she sees a portrait of this young gentleman from Anhalt, which is a German duchy, but he's not even in charge of Anhalt. He's from a town called Stettin, which is in Pomerania, which is the northern coast of Germany. Nowadays, it's this town of Szczecin in Poland. I might be butchering that, but it's currently, and nowadays it's a town in Poland. It used to be a town in, I think, Prussia, but he was from the House of Anhalt, which is technically a subsidiary house of the Brandenburg line, but nobody fucking wants to hear that shit. Even I don't care about that. But if you look in Stettin, Stettin, it should kick you to the modern day city. But she gets a portrait of a young gentleman, and she's young, and he's this, young, blue-eyed, blonde-haired gentleman, and she falls in love. People did that in the 18th centuries. They could look at someone's portrait. Again, there's still some Enlightenment thinking, but at the same time, again, these people are deeply religious, extremely superstitious, believe in a variety of fucking, magical ways of thinking. They 100% believe in true love. They read the thing. She falls in love with this guy. And then he dies of smallpox. And supposedly, again, this might be the guy that wrote
this
the book.
This actually happens nowadays as well, where I'll fall in love with an OnlyFans model, and then they'll die from coronavirus.
Fully preventable disease. Yeah, 100%. And again, she entertains suitors from time to time, but she never marries. So there is some kind of background evidence for this sort of thing, but it's one of those like romantic stories. And when it's time for her to seek a wife for her chosen successor, again, the law enables her to choose her successor. This is just the guy. I mean, there's nobody else that's better. I mean, that's, it's kind of rough. She remembers this house of Anhalt, and the boy that she fell in love with, his niece, is a very young girl. She's 15. Her name is Sophia Frederica. Sophia Augusta Frederica of Anhalt selbst Dornburg. And she's a 15-year-old girl. And she's and she kind of, again, the portrait, it kind of reminds her of this boy that she fell in love with. And that's the one he chooses. Or Peter doesn't choose shit. He doesn't care. But this is Elizabeth, the queen, the Empress Regnant, chooses this girl and has her essentially shipped out. This is a huge boon for the girl Sophia. She's absolutely fucking destitute by the terms of nobility. All right, I have to fucking parse this with. She's still a member of a noble fucking house. She's not begging in the streets.
So in the end, she didn't mind being in the Wayfair cabinet for too long.
No. Yeah. Odd that you mentioned that. I'm pretty sure carriages were about the same size.
Would you say that she's a lady in the streets and also a lady on the streets?
At this point, yeah. I mean, she's essentially a girl at this point. So again, her house is completely destitute, but it dates back to the 11th century. Her amongst her ancestors, she counts the kings of Sweden, the dukes of Anhalt, the variety of different houses of nobility in Germany. Very respectable house. It's fallen on some hard times. Her dad is only, quote unquote, essentially the city governor of the city of Stettin. He doesn't even have a county to his name. It's just a city that Frederick let him. Exactly. What a fucking douche muffin.
You almost said something else.
No, isn't that right? Yeah. My apologies. Well, that's it.
We
There you
are
go.
we are changing the name of the podcast to
You
the
can only push a
Anti-Semite
Russian so
Dungeon.
far
Yeah,
before the
yeah,
anti-Semitism comes
yeah,
out. I guess.
this is now the anti-Semite hour. All right.
Yeah.
He had no country, only
Yes,
city.
only-
What kind of Jew?
Jesus Christ. No. So
We love you.
I love you too. And
Oh.
of course, obviously, I didn't mean anything by that shit. The city of Stettin is located in Prussia. Prussia is ruled by Frederick the Great. Prussia is currently involved in the 7 Years' War with Russia. Prussia is losing very, very badly because there's also France and Great Britain, and essentially Frederick managed to piss off most of the European world just for a land grab in Austria. So Frederick, great general, great statesman, lots of good reforms, very intelligent guy. He's losing. So he essentially he gives the okay for this girl to go. He immediately promotes the dad to a field marshal to make the family be more palatable or whatever. The dude's never commanded troops in his life. Frederick makes him a field marshal. And he sends the mom with her to, frankly, spy, to influence the throne, to start a palace intrigue, essentially turn stuff around. And away they go. It's Sophia and her mom. They start driving in a carriage in December, I think. They cross into Russia around January. Takes them a month or so to travel by carriage. At the border crossing, they're greeted with a gun salute and they're given ermine coats. And she makes her way through. And again, this is a 15, 16-year-old girl at this point. Clearly, people are very impressionable. She reads a lot. She's very erudite. The journey is the longest journey she's ever been on. It affects her. She starts to kind of see things differently. She travels past peasant communes, peasant farms, these noble estates. She starts to learn. She starts to write. She's already fluent at this point in German, French, and I want to say English. She's already, she's 15 years old. She's already fluent in these languages. She starts immediately to learn Russian. She arrives in St. Petersburg. Peter III is like, all right, cool, whatever. But she's, so they're betrothed or whatever. She starts to learn Russian. She gets herself a spiritual advisor on the Orthodox faith. She's a Lutheran. She's born and raised Lutheran. The only thing that her dad told her when she was leaving, and the last thing he told her, was stay true to the Lutheran faith. That's the only fucking advice he gave her. Again,
it's not hard.
Yeah. Just stay true to the Lutheran faith. Again, it's possible. There's Lutheran churches in St. Petersburg. There's a German population. Again, it's not completely impossible. She gets an Orthodox advisor. She gets a Russian teacher, and I think she gets a ballet instructor, actually. Starts to learn how to dance, speak Russian, write in Russian, whatever. When she's doing this in the palace, she likes to keep the windows open. It's not Stettin anymore. It's St. Petersburg, and it's wintertime. She catches pneumonia. She's close to death. Her mother, again, people are very religious, whatever. Her mother sends for a Lutheran preacher, essentially. She's like, no, I want an Orthodox one. People notice this, and they're like, oh. So she recovers. Opinion of hers already fucking rising. She decides to convert to Orthodox Christianity. So fuck you, Dad, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, sometimes all you need to do
Get
to make
fucked.
it in politics is say, fuck you, Dad.
She stops speaking German. She starts speaking exclusively in Russian. She starts writing exclusively in Russian and French when it's foreign or whatever.
I think
She
they
converts,
call this
takes
going
on
native.
Yeah, she
Well,
takes on the name Catherine Yekaterina.
This is the story of Black Widow, right?
Yes.
No, I was gonna say,
yeah.
She's got a ballet instructor. She's learning Russian. She's going to become an assassin at some point, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So and from then on, she's forever known as Catherine Alexeyevna. So, her dad's name, I don't even remember if her name was, no, yeah, her dad's name was Christian. So, she picks, I guess, or someone gives her a patronymic of Alexeyevna. So in God or whatever, her father was named Alexei. Yeah. And from then on, they get betrayed, because you can't get married unless it's in the proper ceremony. So they get married. And she kind of starts fitting into life. Elizabeth starts to respect her, that sort of thing. Peter won't fucking look at her at all. At one point, so much so that Elizabeth, the current empress, actually calls them into her room at one point, and is like, why the fuck aren't y'all making kids? And from here, there are different accounts. This is where the accounts split. Some accounts say that it is because Peter had a quote unquote defect that needed to be corrected
Inside out dick
with circumcision, after which he
like
was
I said.
yep. So apparently he had as soon as he got circumcised, not only was he interested in banging, he was interested in banging everyone. Yeah. So not only was he banging her, he was banging everyone.
Goose is loose.
Yeah. There's other accounts. There are other accounts that say he was already unfaithful to her and simply just did not like her. He is recorded to have been referred to her as the backup madame. That's what he called her. Yeah, he straight up at one point they do have a son together, the future Emperor Paul the First.
That's nice of him. Yeah.
But essentially he starts pretty openly talking about and frankly taking his mistresses around her. Again, she feels super, super slighted by this. She came in with, she was this bright-eyed young woman expecting something and getting something completely different. Naturally, eventually, she starts taking people that are actually interested in her as well. I think that's totally fucking fine.
So many people get tricked into polyamory,
Yeah.
Like everyone goes into it thinking, oh, this is going to be fine. I'm going to have my dick turned right side out. And we're all, I'm going to have my girlfriends, and then you
got to deal with the human emotions of it. Yeah.
Jesus. And the Russian politics, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So there's different angles to this, because mommy is trying to fucking work palace intrigues and shit. At one point gets discovered.
Wait, which one's mommy now?
Mommy is
her mom, or mommy is the one that just had the kid?
Mommy is her actual biological mom.
Okay.
So I don't remember if they
mommy's mom is the...
Yeah. So mommy's trying to do some dumb shit. She's sending letters to Prussia and trying to, sneak behind and shit. She gets found out. And I don't remember if she gets sent home, or you just don't really hear from her anymore, but we know that she wasn't killed. So she's either, in some sort of exile, or she went back home, or whatever. You just kind of don't really hear from her much anymore.
God, my daughter's such a bitch. I'm going to send a letter to Prussia to get her disappeared.
Oh no. Yeah. So apparently, really what Frederick wanted, he wanted the Foreign Minister of Affairs, Minister for Foreign Affairs, essentially displaced, because he was conducting, hostile politics to Prussia, whatever. And Peter III, on record, A, is German, B, loves Frederick. Is fucking hot for Frederick the Great, wants Russia to be like Prussia, etc., etc., etc. Of course, Peter III is Lutheran. He's practicing Lutheran. So again, there's already beginning to be these kind of seeds of what the fuck is Peter III doing? He's fully German. He's got these weird shit he does. He's seemingly completely unaware of what's going on around him. Like there's been theories that he was mentally ill, but again, a lot of this stuff was written by essentially people hostile to him. So I would say, again, from reading what I've been reading, he was mostly just really ignorant and just kind of really focused on the shit he was focused on, and extraordinarily nonchalant about other shit. And eventually Elizabeth passes away. This is his aunt, the current empress. She passes away, and he is getting ready to become the emperor. Very, very crucial. He is not crowned emperor yet. So there's a mourning period during which people wear black around the palace. There's this official mourning period. I don't remember how long it's supposed to take. I think it might be 3 months. It might be some sort of thing. So he's not crowned yet. He is just like the next person. He's in charge. He's very clearly emperor, but he's not crowned. Also, during this time, Catherine, now the former Sophia, she has people she sleeps with. And this is the 18th century. She gets pregnant. She's very, very clearly pregnant, not by Peter. At this point, Peter is living in one wing of the Winter Palace, and she's living in another. People know that he's not her dad. He's not her kid's father because he's open.
That's true.
But he's openly living with his mistress, essentially, like completely openly. Like this is although at one point earlier they had this weird kind of polyamorous thing where they would dinner together and have pleasant conversations, and then they would kind of do the Midwestern.
Right, slap your knee.
Time to let you fuck each other.
I'm good. Best
yeah,
be
time
off.
We're gonna do our thing, and then that's kind of how they existed for a couple of years.
I love, just like in any poly situation, they all of their interactions together after a while became board games, and then running off to fuck other people.
It's actually really bizarre how correct you are, yeah. So, but again, the emperor's wife having a kid by somebody else, generally not chill. So how do they hide the fact that she's literally going into labor?
Puffy dresses.
No, they go.
Insanity.
One of her lovers sets his fucking mansion on fire.
Okay.
Peter III's like, oh fuck, it's a fire. It's time to go walk. So one of Catherine's favorites, at one point, lovers, he sets his fucking mansion on fire so she can have this kid. And he sacrifices his mansions. Again, not a huge sacrifice. These people had multiple mansions or whatever. But it's a funny little anecdote that, that's what it fucking took. She gave birth.
If your option is to watch a mansion burn down or a woman's vagina explode, which one is it going to be?
So if essentially he never found out.
Kind of a
I think the
toss-up
story
for me,
goes.
honestly.
But this baby boy, they give him a completely different name. His last name is Babrinsky.
Oh, Babrinsky. That's a good name for a baby.
Babrinsky.
Oh,
His last name. Yeah, I think his name is Andrei or something. Babrinsky, the little baby. So he gets his own coat of arms and everything, and eventually Paul, who is his actual half brother, he eventually gives him like a noble title or whatever. But that's later. His descendants are still alive today. They're still around, and some of them have done some fun stuff. Like there was one half of the family that left with the revolution, and there's another side of the family that stayed. And we're like, you know what? We're gonna try to make shit work in this new place. We're going to give it a shot. And I think one of the Babrinskys was a very, very well decorated, Soviet biologist or something. He discovered there's animals named after him and shit. So the Babrinskys are still alive and well. They're doing pretty cool, and they're pretty chill.
So crazy idea, but it might be true. Okay. What if Bush?
What's that?
Well, the President Bush, the younger Bush,
okay.
The younger.
Okay. The more dumb one.
Yeah, the dumberer one.
Okay.
What if he had a mistress and she was having twins?
Okay.
And he knew that the media would pay less attention to that if he just lit two really big buildings on fire.
Okay. Continue with this.
Yeah.
I like this line of reasoning. Okay.
I think maybe
hypothetically.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe there are two little
they were twins,
dumber twin Bushes around.
Sure. Named Tower 1 and Tower 2.
Fewer.
Well, there's also a third.
One's name is like Whitney, Tatiana, Charles, and the other one's name is just Pentagon.
It's Pentagon and Babrinski.
Yeah.
Patagonia.
Yeah, Pentagonia. And they're frolicking around some fucking boarding school somewhere. Sure. Yeah. Although, no, my God, it's been so long. They're probably like adults now. Oh God. Oh no.
Yeah, they're
20 years. They can drink.
20-year-old shitheads now.
No, the 80s were 20 years ago. Don't confuse me. All right. The 80s were 20 years ago. The 90s were 10 years ago. This is how it's going to forever be.
Yeah, you stay in that fugue state.
Goddamn right. This is the only reality.
bitch.
Anytime I'm on this podcast, it's the only reality I ever experience. Everything else is a fucking walking nightmare.
9/11 is always yesterday.
That's true.
Yeah.
Christ almighty. What a crock of shit. Yeah.
Oh shit, Y2K, man. I'm really stressed about that.
Yeah.
Dude,
I was stressed about
my
that.
parents went fucking insane about Y2K.
I was 10 and I remember being pretty worried about my digital watch. I
I
was like,
What's
I
gonna
was
happen to my
really stressed-
Tamagotchi though?
You're right. It's gonna starve for 100 years, 1,000 years.
yeah.
I was really worried about it, but I think it's the only conspiracy thing that my family hasn't in some way taken seriously, which is
Mhm.
crazy because it was so widespread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they saw past the whole
They saw past
Amer-
Y2K.
they saw past like the American dream and stuff. Okay, never mind.
No, they're into the rest of the conspiracy.
Oh, they were into okay.
That's
cool.
the only one that they're
The
not.
whole like the country is democratically run. They were into that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So
Secret baby, fire,
she
mansion.
gives birth to a secret baby. It's a fun story.
The
Everybody
Black
lives
Hand
happily ever
starts World
after.
War One.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, what a mess. Actually, yeah, the Austria-Hungary was actually in a much better state than people like to say it was. But
What year is it?
right
Yeah.
now it's I think it's 1762. Did we
good
get to
year.
1762? Yeah, it was a good
It's a
year.
fine year.
Yeah. So I think this is either winter or something. 1762. Elizabeth dies. We're still in this kind of mourning period. Eventually, what ends up happening is Peter III is sensing his power. I'm coming onto the throne. I'm coming in general. He
Preempted.
starts to issue decrees, or rather, he starts talking about things. These things are, again, we're in the 7 Years' War. We're winning. Berlin has actually been captured at this point. Peter III's like, oh, no. We're actually going to become Prussia's ally now. And we're going to help against all of Prussia's enemies. Also, by the way, Denmark has stolen Holstein. So we're going to go to war with Prussia, or Prussia's going to be our ally, and we're going to go with Denmark, our traditional ally, to get Holstein back really quick.
And that's how Hamlet ends.
Yeah. Oh, that's how we don't get to Hamlet ever later, because I would say that Paul, his son, there's a very, very much like father, like son kind of situation. It's been said that perhaps Paul is not Peter III's real son. He could have been a son by one of the Elizabeth's
Many
lovers,
Pauls.
or many lovers.
Polycule.
But it's again, you'll see this kind of parallels in their lives throughout. I think he's very much his father's son. But that's bad. Obviously, we're in a winning war. This is completely dishonorable. He sends a letter, this glowing letter to Frederick, and Frederick, he's not a moron, sends him back a letter saying like, "Hey, bud, you don't think this is kind of sudden? Like maybe because he was like, not demanding any kind of territory from Prussia. He was giving shit to Prussia. He was offering to and Frederick, because he's actually a good politician, he's like, yeah, maybe this isn't a good idea, bud. Like perhaps you're being, like his words were like, perhaps you're being too hasty and making this many concessions to me. Frederick was like, this dude's about to get overthrown.
I
and the
love
final
how John's shitpost Google search actually resulted in something.
Yeah. What is the shit post?
He asked how many bulls did Peter III's wife have?
And the first result is why Catherine the Great's enemies turned her into a sex fiend.
That's actually there's I think a Lutheran monk that actually ended up writing a lot of apocryphal shit about the horse thing, about the her just being super sex crazy. A lot of it is there's a very famous story that Catherine the Great liked to enjoy things with a horse.
What kind of things?
Oh, all sorts of things. Wonderful things.
I'll show you later. Don't look it up, John.
Oh, like bull things.
Yeah.
But with a horse.
So
Yeah.
a lot of these things.
I let you get away with the bull search. We can stop it there.
Yeah.
Go back to the map, John.
Go back to the map. Back to the map.
Back to the map. So
You're lucky I'm out of written warnings.
yeah, you're on a oof.
Thin ice, son.
Although frankly, didn't you say you were already being fired? I mean, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I actually have to interview my replacement next week. So.
There you go. Well, I hope they're wonderful, but not as wonderful as you, John. I love
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the kicker. The kicker is he wants to fucking take lands away and powers away from the church. Dismiss all the cloisters and monasteries, take their property, and start subdividing it. Essentially, he wants to, this is what people thought, turn the religion into Lutheranism, essentially. Again, Russia's a very religious, very Orthodox country. That was essentially the last straw. Never again, I think, in Russian history, up until this point or whatever, did he turn every single part of Russia against himself so fucking thoroughly as with these fucking decrees. Everyone in the city, absolutely everyone, except his personal household, knew for a fact that there was a palace coup coming, and it was coming fucking soon. And everyone was very on board and very excited to see it happen. However, Peter III, being in his awesome state, went to Oranienbaum, which is actually a place. It might even be seen. It's another one of his palaces outside the city limits of St. Petersburg at the time, to celebrate or get ready to celebrate it was either his birthday or his accession or something. He was about to celebrate something, getting ready. Essentially, it was him, his full-time mistress, I think her name was Elizabeth Vorontsova or whatever, again, and his personal household, which are mostly Germans, Lutheran. Again, I think there were like 300, 400 people with him. And then Elizabeth is clearly like, all right, it's time. And it's driven by the fact that one of the conspirators, a lower ranked officer, is captured and arrested and is due to be questioned or interrogated or whatever under torture. And what happens is the soldiers that guard him literally open the fucking window for him and are like, go, dude. Again, at every level, in the guard units, in the army units that are stationed in the capital, in the army units that are stationed around the capital, in the civilian populations, even the fucking peasants were like, let's get this guy out of here. So Catherine's at Peterhof right now. They come get her. She drives in. She enters St. Petersburg fucking triumphantly. The guard regiment, Izmailovsky, comes up and swears fealty to her. And she's like, we will go to combat for you right away. The other regiment, Preobrazhensky, shows up and they're like, we are so sorry. We were not the first, but we heard the news from across the city. So it took some time. We apologize. We're used to being first. So they try to fucking say, and then the Semyonovsky guard come in and say, but we didn't hear, but we would have been here first, or like, it's that kind of fucking thing. All of them swear loyalty to her. She goes to the cathedral and she's dressed in all black. She's not wearing the traditional order of St. Andrew, which is blue, which is what all monarchs wear. She's wearing the red of, I think, Catherine or Anna. I don't remember. She's not pretending to be the empress yet. She's kind
Sounds
of
like she's dressed as a vampire.
Yeah. It's baller. But she's trying to do everything, quote unquote, correctly. She's trying to place herself. Again, this is all very intentional, very thought out. She is trying not to show herself as a usurper. She is this kind of personage that she's the right person for the job, but she is not saying that I'm taking this throne or whatever. Oh, you guys wanted me? Oh, well, I guess, it was one of those things. Word of this I think word travels down to Oranienbaum to Peter III like the next day, and there's fucking full-blown panic. Peter the Great, he is not the Great. Holy shit! It's just Freudian slip hour today. Peter III's staff or whatever essentially starts melting away. Everyone is either just quietly leaving, or is saying things like, "Oh, we'll bring this usurper to justice for you." Sneak out, go to St. Petersburg, and immediately pledge their fucking loyalty. There's only one, and now we're gonna have another anecdote because I think this is really neat and funny. There's only like 300 servants left that are German speakers, and a couple soldiers and one old general. Like, he's in his 70s or 80s, and he's the only one. Minich, he was one of Anna Ioannovna's Germans, actually, if we remember Anna and her fucking German coterie. And Minyak is the only one that's like, no, fuck that. We'll capture it back. We need to fucking steal a ship. We need to go to Kronstadt, which is the naval base a little bit north of St. Petersburg. We'll raise the fucking fleet. We'll fuck shit up. Like he springs into action, and Peter III's like, really? Like Peter III finally realizes that he's fucked. But just for a moment, this old field marshal, this general, is like, no, we could fucking do this. So they get all the servants, and they get Peter, and they get his mistress, and they get the old dude. They steal a fucking galley, which is a rowed big ship. But the trick is there's no galley people. There's nobody to row.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I think it's a neat fucking story. They steal the ship, and then all these nobles and Peter himself has to row the fucking galley boat, and they have this little fucking adventure. They actually row all the way down to Kronstadt, but unfortunately or fortunately, by that point, there's been a messenger from there, and so they actually get a warning shot. The fortress actually shoots a warning shot at them and says, you can't approach, fucking get the fuck out of here. So they go back to Oranienbaum, and eventually he starts sending letters to her, and he's like, oh, come talk to me, we'll discuss terms. And days go by, and she obviously doesn't respond at all. And eventually he's like, all right, I'm ready to resign, I'm ready to step down, essentially. And then she comes down to him, and at this point she's not decked out in the black whatever. She's dressed up in a military uniform. She's dressed up in a colonel's outfit. There's a portrait of her, famous portrait. Type in Catherine the Great. It'll be an equestrian portrait of her. She's dressed in a colonel's uniform for the Preobrazhensky. It's with a C.
Catherine the Great, Mr. Hands.
No.
Catherine the Great. Just do portrait, or you can just do Catherine the Great. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Equestrian portrait.
Equestrian portrait. Yeah,
man,
that's the one.
Her as a pony.
That's the one.
Be pretty cool.
Again, her and horses. The motif continues.
Beautiful.
Wow,
the
man.
first one on top
Queen.
left. Yas Queen. There she is. She's got the blue of the St. Andrews. She's got sword in hand, and she goes down to meet him this way. He signs everything away. It's extraordinarily embarrassing. Essentially, the text says, because he is incapable of governance. She gets everything. This is a boss queen moment.
Yeah,
she's everybody fucking wants her because she's shown herself to be orthodox. She's shown herself to be educated. She's shown herself to be very image conscious. You'll see this later in her life. She's very, very conscious of her public image. She definitely scrubbed her socials for sure before she did this. So so she's very clearly seen to be like, it's this is who we want. And he essentially goes into internal exile, and then he kind of dies, Peter III, under very mysterious circumstances.
Girl bossed to death.
There are, again, this is one of those contentious things to this day. There's concrete fucking data that shows that Peter III was killed.
No.
There's violence involved. There's also a letter
Rented apart by horses.
There is also there's a letter
Strap on to death.
But essentially it's a result because a lot of these nobles that also hung out with Catherine, they would go down and hang out with him. Essentially, they'd get drunk together. It's Russia, after all. And essentially what happened is they got drunk, and there's a handwritten letter from Alexei Orlov, one of Catherine the Great's essentially beaux, and it's very shaky hand. They said, we got drunk and we killed him. Please forgive us. Please don't, like, for the love of my brother, for whatever, like, just for essentially for daddy's sake, for like, please don't put me to death. Is this very, very shaky hand. And of course she doesn't put him to death because it may have been orchestrated by her, but there's no concrete fucking evidence of that. Again, he was killed. You have this letter, but she ordered an autopsy, and she specifically made it a point for the doctors to say, "Hey, make sure you check him for poison." And naturally, nobody found any poison. She was like, "Haha, I didn't poison him, therefore I didn't kill him." So it was one of those fucking things.
Well, and also
the top of his head is missing.
Poison was considered a woman's weapon at this point in time, so. If you could prove that it wasn't poison, then it's like, well, of course, I would never have killed him any other way.
It seems he wasn't murdered by a strychnine or a stiletto boot.
Yeah.
So there's no way that this was done by a woman.
Yeah. It was a woman's weapon and a weapon of Italians. So we're bringing it back to
Man,
making fun of Italians. It was 100%
there's been
Venice.
so
they
much
love
racism on this.
they love to kill each other with poison in Venice, man. Holy shit! Just going back ages.
I mean, why as a man are you living in a place called Venice?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually Attila's fault. It's because of Attila, because Attila burns a place called Aquileia down to the ground, and it was a huge metropolitan Roman city, and all those people, or what was left of them, had to go somewhere. And to escape the Huns, they decided to go onto an island in the middle of a marsh, and that's how Venice was founded, because they were running away from the Huns.
Cowardice.
I mean,
They
like I said,
still haven't stopped murdering each other.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. This is the accession of Catherine the Great. She's just known as Catherine Alexeyevna at this point. This is her accession to power. This is where I'm going to end for today. I don't know if there's questions, commentary from you guys, anything you guys want to know, but my narrative for now is done.
I don't know. That was quite
Go
good.
ahead. I don't know if there's people have anything to say.
Does Peter the Great come back?
Yes, he is. He comes back in episode 18.
Okay.
And he is actually not a zombie. He is what in 5th edition is called a ghast. So he has so there's a little bit less of more of a resistance to turn undead, I think. But that's more at the 5th or 6th level.
I was hoping it was going to be Peter the Lich.
Oh no, that's after the Second Soviet Union.
Peter the Ghoul.
Yeah. No, again, a ghoul is like a low level ghast. It has some pretty clear passive saves against stuff.
I think this is the wrong Slavic region for this kind of mythology.
Yeah.
a lot of Slavs actually share very common mythology. So stuff you see in The Witcher is actually very common to the stuff I grew up with. Outside, there were just shit like that in the streets.
Wait, you grew up in The Witcher? Is that what you're saying?
You just saw ghouls running around.
Well, The Witcher is Andrzej Sapkowski wrote modern day people into a medieval world. There's no attempt by him to write medieval characters. He essentially
that
wrote
is
in
something I've noticed in those games.
Yeah, how modern day people would act in a medieval world, and he does it in a wonderful way. His books are wonderful, but they're by no means what medieval life was like.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate, but I'm gonna mean it.
Are you gonna be super misogynist?
I haven't. No,
Okay.
No. Well,
not
no,
this
time.
maybe.
I'm gonna say we haven't hit all the fucking points. I mean, we had anti-Semitism.
I've said a lot of things that might make ladies angry. Not because I hate them, but because I don't know how to express that I love them. It's the whole thing. But
you hurt the ones you love the most.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I haven't played Witcher 3, but Witcher media in general seems to be the word is bad. It seems to be shitty.
What, like poorly made, or
it just seems bad. I tried playing the first game; it was garbage. The
No,
show
no.
looks bad.
The third one is the only good one, and it's only after they fixed all the bugs. So now
I don't even
it's
remember
good to
the
play.
second one happening.
I enjoyed the second one, but yeah, it's a bit hard to get. It's hard to get into. Yeah,
you fucking nerds.
What you want to do
Dark
is
Souls.
what you want to do is actually you want to go.
What do I want to do to enjoy
you
the
want
Witcher?
to you want to go read the books is what you want to do. That's actually where the juice is, and it's
what you really actually want to do is.
Why am I seeing more and more horses?
Because John will not stop scrolling down the Google search results of Catherine the Great Equestrian.
Won't stop. Can't stop.
Now we're seeing some of the horse lovers that she used to take, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Look up
the fourth
Catherine
guy.
the Great Equestria.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's
look
a
up
whole
Catherine
subculture.
the Great fucks horses.
There you go.
Don't look that up.
Yeah.
Don't.
No. On your own time, John, and certainly not at work. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, true.
NSFW.
Yeah.
NSFD. Not safe for dungeon.
Catherine the Equestrian. Now we've just got like some random chicks from like a couple years ago.
Just some girls named Catherine.
This is just a bunch of ladies on horses.
All right, well, cool.
So, no questions. Anybody have any issues? Devil's advocate shit.
No.
Hey, Ted, you suck.
I don't believe in history.
You don't believe it?
I don't
Neither
think
do
it
I, dude.
happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Well, this is all
I think it's a fun
theoretical.
story you just told.
that's true. I mean, that's essentially all it is. It's none of it is true. I made all of it out from whole cloth. Russia actually is not a real thing. So
Well, we do agree on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no,
Hey.
you convinced me from the very get-go that borders are meaningless because
that is
yeah.
correct.
And very new.
That is
Yeah.
that is completely a very new thing. I'd say they started after the Westphalia, and they were really fucking boofed after probably Versailles, 1918.
Ooh.
That's
There we
when borders were real important.
Important comment in the chat. As descendant of Southern Italians, I'm okay with Venice slander. So I think I know who that is, but shout out.
Yeah.
So God bless.
Yeah.
God bless.
No, it's great to be there. And honestly, I did not know it was going to be 69. I just
Nice.
from the bottom of my heart.
Well,
guys,
most
From the bottom and the top.
from the bottom of the top of my heart.
At the same time.
Nice.
From the yin yang of my heart.
Yeah.
Most
Thank
of
you
the
for
time,
your oral presentation today.
The
No,
69 is a pleasant surprise, so it's actually fitting.
It's wonderful.
It very rarely is.
Thank you
doesn't work.
for.
It's not good for anyone.
It's positioning, and then there's like maybe pillows you can get, but
Yeah. If you just it's like buying some kind of weird kitchen gadget at that point. It's like, I'm going to use this once every 6 months.
why did I just start thinking of mandolins? God damn it!
I was thinking of slap chop, but
yeah.
69 is really the slap chop of sex.
It's the hard boiled egg cutter of sex.
It's never
there
quite.
you go. Yeah.
It's never quite
the
sharp
avocado
enough.
slicer.
Never quite sharp enough when you need it to be, but never quite
Parts
soft
of it are
enough.
too long and parts are too short.
And nothing fits together afterwards, and you have to wash. You have to wash.
So much washing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. On that note,
all right, boys. Again, at no point do I endorse monarchies or the maltreatment of serfs or ethno states or whatever.
I think you did make that clear at some point.
I think monarchies are funny.
They're very funny, but they have absolutely no place in modern society, even quote unquote harmless ones like constitutional ones, because they are a focal point for the right to gather around.
We're gonna have,
and they also literally exist to distract the poor from their troubles. So
we're gonna have you and Mencius Moldbug come on a podcast together and duke it out over corporate monarchies. It'll be really fun. Make a little patchwork. Anyway, thank you, Teddy. I love you.
Yes.
God bless.
Thank you very much for your time tonight, Teddy.
Thank you, listeners. Thank you so much.
Don't you?
No, we just
dare.
refer to them as a monolith. They're the listener.
They're called listener for their many within them.
Thank you, listener. Thank you for your patience.
No. You're one of our favored guests. We will have you back on again. Sometime in the near future, hopefully. Schedules permitting.
And also next time you come on, just realize you can't give the listener. You give them an inch,
they'll take
a mile.
They'll take like a nautical inch, and that's like 2 times as long. Yeah, for sure.
Double, it's like 2 inches.
You give them an inch, and they'll take a knot or whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
So just really quickly, it might be helpful to just put them in their place. Like, fuck you, nerd.
Play him the fucking Tom Hanks video of the one where Tom Hanks dies. That
we are everywhere.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Oh no. And with that, Dorian froze. That's it. I love that.
Oh yeah, that's a good freeze frame.
Here you go. Oh my god, freeze frame.
Perfect. Maybe we can get something done now.
You're wondering how I got to be like this.
Record scratch. I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Thanks so much, guys.
So as always, the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is a free broadcast and will always be a free broadcast. If you would like to support this, please go to patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon. More content on the way. Danko and I are actually working on papers for a publication which we're pretty excited about. Those will be published eventually. Also, now that I'm working in a new job, I will actually have time to do some of the videos that I've been working on. So those are in the works. I'm writing the scripts for them in earnest now, not just pasting notes into the same Google Doc and never touching it again, but actually writing them. We have the workshop. Oh, Dorian's coming back.
Shut the door.
If we can get him in here. There he is. Oh, he's on his phone now.
I guess. There it is.
Dorian, would you like to plug the Trincata workshop?
You guys know the deal with it. Saturdays, 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. PST. We've got the workshop. Paying is optional. Otherwise, go to the Patreon, patreon.com/Trincata, TRUNCATA. Again, every Saturday we've got that. Got a good group going. We're reading Derrida now. Don't let that scare you away. It's the only Derrida we're reading. And that's it for me. Check out the 8 Plates podcast that I was on recently. There's no theme or anything. It's just both of us. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, we are gonna have 8 Plates on. I forget which day, but it's sometime pretty close after Christmas, I believe.
We're gonna talk about food.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about food culture. Will be good. As always, we love you. Please take your medicine.
Please take mine too.
Make sure to share some with your friends.